Good morning, YouTube. It's your boy, Kyle Alston here. Once again, Happy New Year. I'm here with legendary Pastor David Manning from Outlaw Church in Harlem. Good morning, Dr. Manning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I want to say it's an honor to be here today in your presence. You speak truth.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My first question is, as a black man who's 30 years old, why do you feel, not all, but some black men today are so weak?
The problem has several facets, primarily the homes. I think where anyone learns the character of their calling and their gender is within the home setting.
Right.
God set that up way back in the garden with Adam and Eve. And of course, it's the Father that sets up that pattern.
Yes.
I can get it even further on it to discuss that we are set up in the pattern of and having God as our Father. But primarily to answer your question about perhaps one of the greatest plagues that's happening with black men in particular, not only is it the greatest plague, but it's the greatest opportunity missed by black leaders, and that's in the home. Yes. And mainly black men are not there to raise their children, their sons, to make them men. And the ones that are there were raised by women themselves, so they don't know how to make a man a man.
Right.
And a woman can't do it. So we have unbelievable runaway weakness in black men today because of women raising men or raising boys to be women.
Exactly. Right. That's another question. Why do you feel, in your opinion, the black church panders to women so much?
Very easy to lead. You don't get very much argument from them in terms of what is required of them biblically. They tend to be more spiritual, or at least looking for some sort of nurture.
Yes.
And most of them come to the church because they don't find spiritual strength at home. Paul admonished women in the Corinthian church, don't come to me looking for any kind of answers. Don't ask me anything. Ask your husband at home.
Right.
But women in particular, and black men and black women in particular, come to the church looking for some sort of comfort, leadership, and black pastors find it very easy to lead them because they don't give them very much of a problem in that regard.
That's true. And not only that, in the black community, they have the purse strings as well because they graduate college more than boys, so they have the money as well.
They do it, even ones that don't graduate college.
Right.
They understand the process.
Yes.
I'm glad you raised that as a point,
Yes.
because black women also understand the process of maintaining the home financially. It's got to be taken care of.
Right,
And that's just existential in the church. They know that the church has to be taken care of. Men don't understand. Black men don't really care that the home is not provided for. And they certainly don't care that the church is not provided for.
Well,
So you have a great point there.
I care at least, Well,
I'm glad you do.
thank you so much. Why do you feel today black marriages fail? Studies proven that when an average millennial gets married, they're divorced within the first 5 years.
A number of reasons, but primarily the reasons that we're now discussing, that the men are not strong enough to hold the bond of the marriage. It's the husband's responsibility to make that marriage work.
Right.
I think that oftentimes as well, millennials in particular, who get married, who've been raised by their mother, think they're marrying their mother, and their wife ain't their mother, and they don't fully relate. They don't then fully satisfy a woman. A woman loves diamonds, she loves money, she loves fancy things, but she loves being loved more than anything. And if a man can't do that, the marriage is going to fail.
Exactly. Yeah.
If he can't make her feel like she's protected, that nothing can harm her. I mean, she'll take the money in the cars, but if he can just make her feel loved and feel protected, that's about. I mean, she's good to go.
Yeah.
He's not doing that. The black man, he doesn't know how to do that.
I know. I think because I'm 30 years old. And I feel in the 1980s when the CIA put drugs in the black community, my elders who were 20 then were now 50.
Right.
They were on drugs. They were
right.
gangbangers, multiple thoughts and whores.
Right.
So my generation of men are trying to be husbands, but they don't have a model how. It's not on TV. It's not taught in the church anymore. It's not taught in school either. So most black men my age don't have a model for that.
Yeah, and in most churches, even the men and boys who watch church ministries either turned off or turned off by the effeminate activity of pastors, or they're turned into sissies themselves by sissy pastors.
Yes.
So, but just again, an excellent point you raised. I should be interviewing you. That 30 years ago, when crack was dumped in their neighborhoods, and it destroyed a generation, and perhaps the last generation of men that had any relationship with a father.
Yes. From
the 60s to the 70s. After that, it's been just off the rails. No man in the house. 90% of men raised by women.
Right. Exactly. When you say the black man doesn't understand the world, what do you mean?
It's complicated, but primarily my focus is on what has been to date his inability to structure the world architecturally, economically, socially, financially, militarily, as other races of people have done. For instance, if you look at I was in England, London. In fact, I was in Oxford going back about 10, 12 years ago, and the University of St. Anthony's at Oxford College that I had the opportunity to speak at had been built in the Middle Ages. In the 11th century, you're talking over nearly 1,000 years. That building, the wall, the building, the structure, the doors were all over 1,000 years old. In the year 20, whatever it was, 4 or 5 I was there. In Africa, we don't find structures that are built like that for that period of time. While there are some structures, and I'll give the structure of Zimbabwe, the wall in Zimbabwe, and we can talk about Egypt as a separate entity in terms of structure, as the master of all building, all architecture. Nothing on the world is ever compared to it. But I think basically where you find the black man, he has not carved out an architectural, a geographical, a financial, economic structure as many other races have done. I mean, I was in China. The Forbidden City was also built in the 8th century. The Great Wall of China, not to mention walls, and now I get a chill. I'm not talking about walls with the Tribulation Trump, but
we need one.
We have not built that way, and that's the reason I don't think he understands the world. Because primarily, I mean, the Jericho Wall is over 4,000 years old. That was built by Canaan, however, but that's a long time ago that happened.
That's true. Why do you feel LGBT is pushed on black men in particular?
I think it's just pushed everywhere, but I could be wrong on this, but I've walked the streets of Harlem at night. I've been in Harlem for nearly 40 years now. I've watched the first wave of white people that came to Harlem in the gentrification process were sodomites. They were homosexual. They were the first one who broke ground.
Yes.
They came up here first. And they came up here first because they found this a lucrative hunting ground for young black men. I'm talking about 15, 14, 17, 18, 19-year-old boys.
Yes.
Out of the street with a basketball at night, get talked to by a 35-year-old white man. He takes him to McDonald's, buys him a hamburger, then he takes him home and has sex with him. Mm-hmm. That's why they first came. Right. The sodomites opened up gentrification in Harlem. And so after that, others started coming as well. But the sodomy, why is it pushed on black men? Quite frankly, it's been a long-running problem between the races that black men are sexually stronger, larger, and better at sex physically than the white man. So it is so much that it's pushed on him. He's sought after. You know, the white sodomites buy him things because they treat him like he's a woman because he's got something that they want. So and then he gets caught up in the swing of it, thinking he can do it without becoming one himself.
Right.
Someone told me in prison years ago, say, listen, you know, sodomites, you may think all you want to do is they want you to do it to them backdoor. But hell, they want to backdoor you too after a while. They like going both ways. So I think it's that reason.
Yeah. Speaking of boys playing basketball at midnight, being open targets, the one commonality of sexual abuse in the black community is no father, no. Because when they see that when mom's vulnerable and weak, you know, and a boy's there, I can take advantage of him.
Yeah,
right.
And they do. There's no guardrails. There's no sense of anybody protecting. And the other problem, however, is that, and I could be wrong on this, and I certainly wouldn't want to be misquoted, but I'm certainly not going to hold back. 70 to 80% of black pastors are sodomites. So even though they're able to hide it in the pulpit, you know. Well, let's look at it this way. Look at the Catholic Church.
Exactly, yes.
All right? They hide it behind them gowns and all them canes and that smoke stuff they throw around all the time. But they're sodomites. They become priests because they're sodomites.
Of course.
But black pastors, 70, 80, you're talking 7 out of 10 of them you see in a pulpit.
Exactly. And then not only that, in the Catholic Church, the Vatican, you know, how can you go your whole life without a woman? That makes sense. I mean, as a man, you have testosterone. How can you go a whole life without a woman? That doesn't make sense. So you got to be on a down low.
No,
that makes sense, right?
And the Catholics ought to know that as well. I mean, and I think they do, but it's just an obvious fact that you just made mention of.
Right, exactly. Okay. How do you feel about Trump? In my opinion, he's an alpha male.
Well, I think that I used to feel the same way until he started lying and deceiving. You know, I was giving some thought to this over the last couple of days. I do my own broadcast, and I don't want to break this on your venue, but I'll allude to it. I think that Trump, because of his Russia connection, has had to go in a direction that perhaps he would not have gone were he not under the threat of exposure from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, and some of the business deals and the lies that he has done. That is to say that had that not happened to him, I think that when we look at racism, and which is in Trump, if you're aware of the Central Park Five, or the fact that Trump is irreligious or immoral, I think most politicians are irreligious and immoral, and racist as well. It's hard. It's hard not to have a preference for racists. People call me a racist because of the things I've said about the black man, that he doesn't do this or that or the other. But it isn't that. I love my brother. I swear before God, I do. I can't tolerate the fact that he's not contributing to his own well-being. So what I say about him is called racist. So it's hard not to be perceived as a racist. I think Trump's problem has been, and perhaps reason why you see him as an alpha male, he does have that kind of a strength, but he's not his own man, and we are now under the thumb of Vladimir Putin right now, and that's why all this madness is going on, because he's controlled by Russia.
Right. They call you a racist because you critique black men very harshly, because, think about it is, we're men and women, we're different, we think differently, see, mama's love deals with, it's okay, baby. Daddy's love deals with correction.
Right.
In the black community, it's a matriarch, so.
Right.
You saying it so harshly, it comes off as, you hate black men, you want to better us, and that's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you should not be the only one that understands that.
Right.
Everybody else ought to be able to understand it as well. Not only that, but I mean, I'm continually in this community contributing to the community. I'm not running away from it. I'm not trying to be white, you know, like many pastors I know, or leaders, in fact. So, but we'll see how long that lasts in that regard.
I know. And do you feel the wall should be built as you see it?
No, I don't think it should. I think that it is, and I don't think Trump thinks it should be built either. There are several reasons. Number one is that the purpose of it was simply to engender deep down in Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia and other places that white America is going to separate itself from brown and black folk and Mexicans as well. And that made them feel like, you know, we can put a wall at 110th Street and stop black folk from crossing over down onto Park Avenue and the East Side. I think that's what got Trump elected by the racists. It's a racist idea. It's a symbol of great inferiority of the deep state South, white South, people that are inferior and who are dwindling in population. They're dwindling in influence. And that wall would be some sort of a victory trophy for them. And so I don't think they deserve it. I don't think that they do. I think that they've had slaves. They've ran the plantation south. They have maligned the black community with rape of black women for years and years and years. They've colored all of us different colors. They, in many ways, stripped away the opportunity for economics. I just saw a Green Book last night. I don't know if you've seen that movie. You ought to see it. It's very interesting. It's about a reversal of the roles of white man being a chauffeur for a black man through the South. It's incredible. It's worse than driving Miss Daisy. But I think that the racism in America has been raised again at a height that I didn't see it when I was picking cotton. And my father couldn't vote. If a 10-year-old boy told my daddy to do something, he had to take his hat off and do it. That was racism of the 50s and the 60s. It's worse now, and Trump is feeding it into it. So no, the wall should not be built.
If black women don't start having more children, 20 years from now, America will be 30% Hispanic.
Well, that's what the white man is looking at now.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I understand it clearly because white people are looking, if they can't get their women to have children, many of them are gone lesbian now. Others are career oriented. They don't want children. They want to be lawyers and politicians and whatever else they want to be. They want to lead businesses and they don't want to have babies. They're only strapped down with that. And so as a result right now, the population comparison between whites and brown-skinned people is just off the rails in terms of brown-skin majority. But you're right. Black women aren't having babies at the level of Muslims or Mexican. You know, we used to have nine children used to be the standard for the black family.
Jackson family, yeah.
Yeah, nine.
Right.
You done got 9 children, you ain't got no family yet.
Right.
Not anymore. But we don't have men making babies anymore. And then we got women kissing women now. You know, it's you know, that's why what I'm teaching is so critical. It's so important for our survival. We can't survive. You know, I had out there on the announcement board, the wind blew it off. 57 years after Dr. King's March on Washington, Harlem is now owned by white people. Ain't that a scream?
Right.
And you got white supremacy jumping up and down, marching up in Charlottesville now. It means that it didn't solve the problem. You know, there must be some way of dealing, because we're not an inferior people. God knows, I know that we're not. The black man is not inferior. He's just been ill-trained. He's not been cultured. He's not been chastised. He's not been corrected. He could be a great man. Hell, if you put him on the basketball court, he will actually sit down and let you yell at him and tell him how to make a jump shot. He'll let you tell you, don't shoot before, don't dribble, don't hog the ball. You can yell at him and tell him that, and he'll do that on the basketball court or football. But if you get him in the business place in the world where he can become an executive and make $400,000 a year, you can't talk to him. He don't want to hear it, but he'll hear it in an area that he finds an area of pleasure. We're not inferior. I don't want to go as far as saying that we're far superior, but we have been greatly misled by our leaders. They don't make men anymore.
They don't. They don't. And the reason I said that comment about Hispanic, I'm not racist at all. In my lifetime, I had 2 girls who were Hispanic. But I was in Sylvia's last month. I saw about 3 or 4 Spanish people working in there. I was surprised.
They're better workers.
Right. Like when you go to Sea-Town, any place that they don't hire us. So that's
because they don't. You're worse worker. I was over on 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, Marquetta Mark on Park Avenue. You know what it is?
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, I talked to a couple of Spanish leaders when they were just getting ready to build Costco's on 116th Street. They got this whole not parking, but shopping area there, right? So I met with a couple of leaders. I said, listen, 116th Street and what was it? First Avenue, FDR Drive. I said, you Spanish people need to watch out because y'all got a great economy on 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, 1st Avenue. Y'all, they own all those shops, they own those stores, all of them. They're taking in millions of dollars there. And no Jews over there, no black folk over there. It's all meter. So I said to them, this shopping mall's gonna crush your economy. He said, no, it's not. And he was right. That shopping mall is there, but 3rd Avenue, Sea-Town, and all those stores, in fact, they're growing on 3rd Avenue. They haven't lost a dime because they stick together.
Yes.
They buy from each other. They will not deal with you. They treat you worse than a white man because they don't recognize, or they recognize that you don't have the same commitment for family, you don't have the same commitment for economics, so they won't deal with you, and they won't hire you either.
Exactly. Cause I work in, I go to the gym I go to about 7 years now. I applied there in my 20s about 7 times there. I didn't get no callback. 7 times. I didn't get any, 7 times. But then the same, every other month, I would say there was Hispanic working there. And I was just like, wow, what did I do wrong?
I spent some early years on 140th Street in Broadway in Amsterdam. I don't know if what the Dominicans have done over there. When I first, years ago, they used to be called Sugar Hill. It used to be the prime real estate for black church folk. They had nice apartments, 2 bathrooms, just really nice living quarters on Broadway, on Amsterdam, all up in that region from 135th Street up to 155th Street, that enclave up there. Gracious living. And I lived there for a brief period of time. The Dominicans came from Dominican Republic. Most of them couldn't speak English when they got off the boat. They got the Banco Popular.
Yeah.
They got sneaker businesses by the thousand. They got restaurants, furniture shops, insurance businesses of every sort and every magnitude. You go up Broadway, you think you're on George Washington Avenue down in Santo Domingo. And they maintain that area. We have lost 125th Street to white folk and Jews. It's incredible. It's senseless. You Al Sharpton, Charles Rangel, Keith Wright.
And
What?
The baby booms, kind of sold out because they feel that, the white ice is colder. You all remember in the 50s, 60s, right in Harlem, we had something called mom and pop stores. We had our own businesses,
Yeah,
and
that's way before your time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I do remember them well.
Right.
I long for them. In fact, I mourn for them because, it was just a pleasure to walk into a store and the man was there with his wife, true mom and pop.
Right.
He understood the culture, understood the taste of the food you wanted to buy, and just where you went, the restaurants, this store right across the street, owned by some guys from Morocco who still don't know how to speak English. But I see people going in there all day and they're taking truckloads of money. The one down the street, the deli, they're selling turkey sandwiches and rolls, all by Muslims that don't even speak English in our neighborhood on Malcolm X Boulevard, for crying out loud. It's a shame. It's a shame. And nobody wants to hear the truth.
No, they don't. They don't. They don't. How do you feel the black men can be rebuilt?
It's not all that difficult. You got to kill a few of the leaders. That's Bible. You can't get the black man's attention by simply appealing to him. Somebody's going to have to go down and pay the price for the suffering that's being inflicted. When I was teaching Saturday about when a child grows up without a father in the house, year after year after year, and he's 14, 15 years old now, he's never had a daddy. He knows what a father is like. He wants one. It's very painful in those early formative years. That's a lot of social pain being inflicted upon him, and somebody should pay for that. And then when it becomes a generational kind of thing that's handed over from generation to generation, you need to look at the head of who is promoting this, who allowed this to happen. Then they need to pay a capital punishment price. Now, that's what the Bible says in many, many ways. If you look at the works of Moses, or you look at the work of the prophets, that there's a teaching I did Saturday where King Agag had, through his military operations, had made many of the Jewish women widows and many of the Jewish children fatherless. And Samuel, the prophet, told King Saul to kill him for what he had done to the people. Saul didn't do it. But that's, you can't, when people realize the penalty for deserting your family, the penalty for inflicting the pain of poverty upon generation after generation is death. You do that, you're gonna die. Muslims do it. Jews used to do it. You can't marry outside the Jewish family. Muslims that are orthodox in terms of orthodoxy won't let you marry outside of they won't let you bring anybody that's anti-Muslim. If their daughters, there's a thing called honor killing. I don't know if you've heard about that among Muslims, that we got to keep the Muslim strong. And a father will kill his daughter if his son, if they go off and marry the wrong person. I don't see any other way. The other thing, of course, that seems like a harsh statement, but the other thing is that, if you go into the prisons and you look at the number of shootings, when Obama became president, I sat at this desk and said, I stood in the pulpit and said, you're going to see more black men killed under Obama than you've seen under anybody. Now, one thing I'll say about Trump, we don't see the same shootings of black men. It's not like we don't see the Trayvon Martins, the Michael Browns. No. We don't see that now.
No, we don't.
The reason why is because young black men thought when Obama became president that they were invincible.
Right, they run amok.
Right. So somebody needs to pay the price for that, for this destruction of the community.
I voted for Obama when he first ran.
You voted for him?
Yeah, the first time in 2008, because I was in my 20s, I was young. But his second term, I saw how weak he was. I mean, his entire agenda, this is me. Everything was for LGBT and girl empowerment. I didn't see anything for jobs or betterment of men. I didn't see that. It's all 8 years. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see it in 2008. So you saw it in 2012. I never heard anything come out of his mouth that made me think he even understood anything about being black, or that he was ever going to do anything for. I mean, occasionally Al Sharpton will say something, And I think that you can feel sometimes the passion that Sharpton has, for black folk. I'm not supportive of him. I wouldn't go across the street and support him. But I never heard nothing come out of Obama's mouth. Plus, he had a white mama.
Yes.
He's raised white. He talks white. He acts white. Somebody said, well, they got a black wife. I said, what the hell they got to do with anything? Oh, they think it's black white. I swear. They said his black wife going to make him a black man. It's the same thing y'all say about black women making black boys men. I screamed. I've never been as passionate at a pulpit as I was during those years. Because I knew he was going to rip and rape and pimp black people like they ain't never pimped them before. In fact, I call him the long-legged Mac Daddy, big-time pimp.
Yeah, Mac. Yeah, so that video you did with you trip pastor. You did that.
No, that's what it was.
His first campaign with a bunch of white women with the big boobs.
Yeah, imagine that. I mean, I don't think people caught that. Crazy.
Oh, yes. I think he's also related to Lola Sotoro.
Who?
Lola Sotoro. He's related to him as well.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah, he is. And I put up for just 2 days, I need to get it back out there, on the announcement board, that Obama gave, who was it? That was leader of England and Germany at the time, Angela Merkel, and gave them the permission to kill Gaddafi in Libya. Gaddafi. Obama could have stopped it.
Yes.
Gaddafi, I'm not a Muslim, but Gaddafi was perhaps outside of Malcolm X or Elijah Muhammad, one of the more solid men on planet Earth. In Libya under Gaddafi, everybody had medical care at the finest stability. You went to the finest doctors, cleanest hospitals you could find anywhere in Africa. Everybody got free education up to the PhD and the doctorate level.
Exactly.
Gaddafi used his oil money, not for Gaddafi. He used that oil money in Libya to make sure that every Libyan had great food, great places. And they killed him. And they dragged him through the street. They tied a string around his testicles. These white boys. They tied a string around his testicles and his penis. And while he was dying, they dragged him through the capital city so the people could look at, what the hell was that all about? And Obama let it happen. He stood behind it. He said he was leading from behind on that situation. Right. I don't know why people haven't done something to Obama for that.
Right. Gaddafi tried to create central banking system that would make Libya independent of England, America.
Yeah.
What happened was that if he does that, the entire world would collapse.
Right.
And they killed him.
And they killed him.
Right.
And they I mean, I don't know where black leaders are. Why they didn't say something. I don't know. Anyway, and then that's where they are everywhere.
Okay. All right, last question. I'm gonna let you go. The word outlaw, where did that come from for your church?
I was praying several years ago, and I was praying in tongues. I'm not Pentecostal, as you very well know if you listen to me, but I do believe in the spiritual gift of tongues. That's seldom do I ever you hear me say it, speak in tongues, but I pray. I said that word, and the Lord said to me in that prayer meeting, that's the new name that He's given for the community known as Harlem. Means the land where the men shall walk barefoot because the land is holy ground. I rejected it. I rejected it because outlaw was just one alphabet away from being Allah. And I'm a Christian. It just sounds funny. I thought people were going to criticize me. They were going to judge me. And I didn't like it. So I rejected it. Then the Lord took me to the Bible. And He showed me that the word outlaw, in the English spelling, in the English transliteration of the book of the Hebrew names, that outlaw is spelled A-T-L-A-H. And the first thing He showed me in the Bible was in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11, where one of the first cities outside of the city, of Garden of Eden was called Havilah. Then it's spelled H-I-V-I-L-A-H. And then He went on to show me that nearly every name of power in the Hebrew Bible ends in A-H. Jeremiah, Sarah, Deborah, hallelujah, Jehovah, Micaiah, Micah, Isaiah. All those names in AH, it has a specific sound and power that's attributed to the names, and outlines in AH as well. There's a lot more I could say about the genesis of that, but it is truly an anointed word. Socrates, Plato wrote of Socrates telling him about a great city called Atlantis, Atlantis, and it's one of the most splendid cities on the planet. Nobody's ever found it, but it is from God, and I've been hanging on to it now for 27 years. Atla, that's what God said.
Awesome. Okay. All right, YouTube, I'm signing off with Dr. David Manning from Atla Church in Harlem. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.